my computer now, so everything sounds a lot better now. I know we said earlier that we were going to do this, like, first Darth reads and then I read, and then Darth reads and then I read, but we decided that since the first video quality was shit, and it wasn't fair to Darth for him to have that be his first go, we're gonna have him... Yes, I'm a jerk. We're gonna have him read chapter 2, and then it'll go this one, that one, this one, that one, from here on out.
In my defense, I've had my computer for a longer time than she's had hers, so I plead the fifth on that one. Anyway.
Regardless, let's start the reading.
Chapter 2. Not Your Average Criminal. Batman and Jeff followed the guards to the interrogation room, with the men glancing at Jeff's scarred visage unsettlingly. Batman opened the door, hearing a very familiar voice whistling the tune of Jingle Bells. The hero narrowed his eyes at the Joker, clad in the standard orange uniform that every Arkham inmate wore. The clown looked at Batman, and his smile only grew. "Oh, hello, Batsy. You came all the way here just to visit little old me? Be still my heart." He laughed. Batman glared down at him, before throwing down a file on the table, where several gruesome pictures depicting the murder victims slid out for the clown to see. The Joker glanced from one picture to the next, nodding as though he were a critic evaluating an exquisite piece of art. "Oh, I see. You were wondering if that was me. Not bad, but look at them. Not a smile on their faces," he huffed disapprovingly. Jeff looked over Batman's shoulder. "I could have fixed that. Then they all would have been as beautiful as me." Joker looked up at him. "Who's this, Bats? Did you get so bored waiting for me to bust out that you had to get a new playmate?" Jeff frowned. "Hardly. I work alone. The Bat here just took me along for the ride." Joker laughed. "What makes you so special? You look like a discount party clown who got emo because he was never offered a slice of cake." "Have you looked in a mirror?" Jeff sneered, looking at the other condescendingly. "I couldn't ask for a better face." The clown gave another laugh. "Oh, Scarface, go suck on a knife. That face could use some improvement." That struck a nerve, and in one quick movement, the serial killer lunged at the clown with every intent to kill. But with a speed he couldn't match, Batman grabbed a fistful of Jeff's hoodie, throwing him roughly into the metal wall, while the Joker's laughter reverberated around the room. There was a clicking of locks as the caped hero cuffed Jeff to the door handle. "Kids these days, am I right, Batsy? Always need to be put in their place," the Joker began, when Batman reached over the table and grabbed the clown. He lifted him into the air, his eyes narrowing dangerously. "Oh, right to the point, I see," Joker giggled insanely. "Well, I thought you were smarter than this, Bat-brain. Do you really think I would go through all the trouble of killing them and didn't make you know it was me who did it?" Batman didn't answer, knowing there was truth to the madman's words. He threw the Joker back, removing the handcuffs from Jeff. "We're done here." "Be sure to keep in touch," the Joker yelled, followed by a menacing laugh that echoed through Arkham. As soon as they were back out of the asylum, Jeff glared at the other, at least as best as he could with a permanent smile. "You knew this guy had a calling card and was in Arkham, but still brought us here anyway to ask him? Even after I told you I recognized the style of murder, but not exactly the person who did it? Why would you do that?" he snapped, annoyed at the Caped Crusader. "I had to make sure all possible suspects I knew of were investigated," he replied, flooring the Batmobile, whose tires squealed loudly before roaring into the streets. "Then why am I here? Instead of at home with my parole officer, if you aren't going to pay attention to my information?" Jeff asked, folding his arms and slouching in his seat. Batman never took his eyes off the road. "I am paying attention. I'm ruling out more logical suspects before I chase your monsters." That made the younger laugh, turning his attention wholly on the other. "You call them monsters, but I've heard quite a bit about some of who you face, and I don't think you have room to judge. What I face is based firmly in reality. Even the more far-fetched examples have some basis in science. Your creatures seem to have a more demonic aspect. Jeff's grin widened. You have no idea. After a few minutes of silence, the serial killer finally spoke again. So where are we going now? Since you obviously aren't taking me home. Seeing my last suspect, in the sewers, Batman answered, stopping in the alleyway. That made the other cringe. That one is all you. I'm not about to go mucking about in the sewers. A black-gloved hand grabbed a fistful of Jeff's sweatshirt as he yanked the killer out of the vehicle. You're staying with me. You don't really trust me, do you? The other asked, unamused, but unable to escape even if he wanted to. He wasn't about to, though. This guy was the only one who could testify for him that he didn't cause any trouble, even if he was out past curfew. I don't trust anyone, really. Least of all killers like you. But if what you say is true, then I need you alive. The killer put his hands up resignedly and followed behind him, keeping close and trying not to think about what they were doing. As the pair made their way into the sewer, Batman held his hand up, silently halting Jeff as he stared at the hulking monster in front of them. Batman! What a delicious surprise, Killer Croc laughed, towering over the two of them. I don't have time for games, Croc. 3 people were torn to shreds in North Gotham tonight. Very similar to your handiwork, the Dark Knight explained. Croc hissed. The sewer access to North Gotham has been cut off due to a cave-in. Even I could not get through to kill them in time. Batman narrowed his eyes. If I find out you were lying to me, Croc, I'll be back for you. The creature laughed, turning to dive into the water. And I will be waiting to feast on your flesh, Batman. Jeff huffed indignantly, but didn't break eye contact with the other, muttering something about having enemies like that, but not believing him by his friends. So, about those monsters I mentioned earlier, still think it's so far-fetched after your so-called logical leads turned up empty? He asked, arms folded across his chest and smiling victoriously. Batman turned to him, looking unamused. Perhaps not, but we don't have sufficient time to dig up any leads. Do you know where they could be? Give me until tomorrow night. I'll need the time to gather some information on their whereabouts and clear with my parole officer that I can assist you with this. That should give you plenty of time to prepare in the meantime, Jeff stated, checking his watch again and sighing heavily. She is gonna freaking kill me for not being in bed. The costumed hero raised an eyebrow. I'll take care of your parole officer. You're aiding an investigation, but this is not something the GCPD can handle, if the creatures you're telling me about are real. They're real. And let me tell you, they make me look downright civil, the other replied, turning to leave the sewer. You coming or what? Batman brushed past him, opening the cockpit to the Batmobile and hopping in. The ride to the house where Jeff was staying was quiet until both went up to the door, Jeff opening it quietly and being met with a very angry glare from the woman in the middle of the room. You're mad, aren't you? He asked, taking off his shoes at the door. I've passed angry. You know you're under house arrest and can only leave the house during the day, and if I'm with you. What were you thinking, leaving through the window in the middle of the night? She snapped, closing the distance between them, having not yet noticed the Caped Crusader in the doorway. He's aiding an investigation, he said to the woman, black cape flowing in the breeze. There have been a string of murders around Gotham, and he may have information that may be useful. The officer jumped, then sighed at the information. Was it him? She asked, motioning towards the teen as he swallowed some pills. No. He'd be with the other inmates at Arkham by now if he did, he replied. She seemed relieved at that, though not totally convinced. Pausing a few minutes to consider the circumstances, she finally gave in with a sigh. Considering who you are, I'll let you take him along. But make sure he brings his pills next time. He's very late taking them, she conceded, glancing back at him. Jeff just looked back and held up the bottle for Batman to see. It makes the voices go away, he explained, placing the container back on the table. The masked vigilante narrowed his eyes, but nodded. He was gone by the